Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to introduce you in this video to a new addition. No, not that new addition. This new addition. That's right, we got ourselves a new lathe finally. And so we're going to go over in this video, but I'm also going to go over the saga, I guess it would be called, primarily on offloading it once I got it home. I had to go up to the middle of the state of Florida to pick this up. It was about a 3-hour one-way trip, so 6 hours round trip. And anyway, I'll get into the details of that later because this is just a quick intro. But primarily the video is going to be offloading it, and then we're going to show you how it runs. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Well, let's do a quick overview on it first and just give you that much, and then we'll go into, like I said before, some greater detail later on. Okay, so this is a 4003, a G4003, 12 by 36. 12 inches is the swing. The distance between the center line and the ways then would be about 6, maybe a little bit more. So you can put a 12-inch diameter part in there and be able to machine it. 36 is the distance between centers. So if you had a center instead of the chuck inside here, and then pulled the center all the way back, you know, on the tailstock, you'd have 36 inches. So considering my old lathe was a 6/18, so 6-inch swing and 18 inches between centers, this is quite an upgrade. This is the exact model that I was looking to buy directly from Grizzly. And at the very end of this video, we will go over the debacle I had with them. And I'm just going to give you the facts and let you make up your mind in regards to the company. And then whether you want to deal with them or not in the future is up to you. I think I would still buy some stuff from them, like small parts and things like that. But as far as buying a whole machine tool from them, I don't know if I'd do that. And I didn't get that, this one from them. It was from a private sale. Anyway, we'll get into that. But the main reasons why I wanted the 4003, there's a couple of them. First of all, the Gear-Head lathe. I didn't want a variable speed lathe. The variable speed lathes rather have AC to DC conversions and a DC motor and controlled or driver boards. And you turn a little rheostat or the dial on it, the potentiometer, and it changes the speed. But those things are prone to big time problems, especially at lower RPMs with a lot of torque if you're turning something large. And then all of a sudden you blow something on the driver board, and then you got to either resolder, a fuse on it or a fusible link, or I don't know what the hell it is. But I have seen a number of videos from creators where they've had problems with those boards, and then the next thing you know, their lathe's out of service till they get a whole new board in. So I didn't want that. I wanted the Gear-Head lathe, the Gear-Head, style, and the quick change gearbox for both threading and for feeds. That's why you have a lead screw, and then you have a drive shaft. There are two different functions based upon what you select. So instead of like on a small lathe, just a lead screw which does everything, and of course it wears the shit out of it, you have these different two, and you can select the two over here. So again, we'll get into that another time. As far as making any chips goes, I'm not going to do that on this video. We're just gonna wait for another video where I gotta make something that's purposeful. Then we'll make some first chips on that. But anyway, that's one of the main reasons why I wanted it, the Gear-Head and the gearbox. The other thing is this has an 1.5-inch diameter bore as far as the spindle bore goes. Now, considering my 6/18 had a 5/8 spindle bore, that's pretty significant. So you can kind of look down it right there. That's a big hole, said the wife. Yes. So yeah, she'll take a big one down her throat, basically. And so that was another reason why I wanted this particular type of model. The smaller units I could have probably worked with maybe a 10-inch swing and maybe a shorter distance between centers. But they all came with a 25 mil spindle, which is 1 inch. And I know I would need more than that. I've run into it a dozen or more times, maybe 2 dozen, maybe a billion times.
That's bullshit.
I don't know. That I would need something that's even bigger than 1 inch for a spindle bore to put some sort of a shaft down, put a shaft down her throat here, okay? I needed something bigger. So those are the main reasons why I wanted this. The other thing is it's 220 single phase. I like the 220 for the torque, and you don't have to run as big a wire, and we're going to get into the wire thing here in a second, a little later actually. I know that looks sketchy, but there's a reason. You'll see here. And you know, that's the main reasons. If I come up with any later that I've forgotten, I will let you know. But those are the primary reasons why I wanted this particular one. We'll get into the detail how it works later on, but in this particular video, we're going to cover just setting up and prepping, which is out there. You'll see from the clips coming up, where I was hooked up to a U-Haul trailer going up to Eustis, Florida, which I mentioned is like about 3 hours one way from me. So a 6-hour round trip that day, plus 2.5 at the previous owner's property, you know, the guy who sold it to me, loading it up. And, you know, it was about 965,000 degrees Celsius and about 2.6 billion% humidity that day.
That's not true.
No, I'm serious. That's what it was. Yeah, I just couldn't do any filming up there. It was just too hot. If I put this thing out, like camera out, it would have overheated in about 3 seconds. So no, we couldn't do that. Couldn't do any filming up there. And yeah, so anyway, we'll do the clips where going to be mainly offloading it here. That's the sketchy part, because I work by myself. There's some sketchiness, as you saw from the intro, like first screen or card on this video about you know, the warning essentially that I do sketchy stuff. Don't do it my way. This is just the way I did it though, okay? Because I'm by myself, it's all I can do. So anyway, let's move on to those, and then we'll finish this out with some detail on more detail on the lathe. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to use this to move it once we get it here. And to move it, actually, well, move it off what I'm bringing it back on. What we're going to move it with is the truck and the trailer. Now, I could have probably put that in the back of the truck, but we got two problems. Number one, we got height, because this gentleman who's selling it in a private sale is in a garage similar to mine. And we don't have much height here, which I had a problem with the mill sitting in the back of the truck. And I could barely get that engine hoist close enough to it with some chains to pick it up and get it out of the truck. In fact, what I did was, I wish I'd filmed this. I picked it up at the engine hoist. The truck was kind of backed in right about where Ichabod is laying right there, the back of the truck. And then lifted it about a 1/4 inch off the back of the truck and then pulled the truck out. And then I could lower it down and make sure everything was cleared up here. So he's got the same situation. So he's also got an engine hoist, so it'll be difficult to load it up in the back of the truck being so high. So I thought that would be better on a trailer, which is much lower. That trailer bed, you know, the bottom of the trailer where anything would sit, is probably 3.5 feet lower than the back of my truck bed. So that'll work out well. The other thing is, I think I already said this, the weight of the lathe's about 1,000 pounds. So when you add that in this toolbox, which is a couple hundred pounds, you know, technically we're kind of pushing the 1/2 ton limit. So I figured it'd be better off to put the trailer on there, because, you know, that this thing with, you know, can certainly pull probably 8,000 or 9,000 pounds. I think that's what it's rated at, you know, because it's got the Hemi.
Hey, that thing got a Hemi?
And unfortunately, the answer is no. Ichabod's not going to be going with me on this one. It's going to be too long of a day. And I don't know how long I'm going to be at the place at this gentleman's house picking this up, because it's going to take a while to get everything loaded. I'd have to, you know, take him out of the truck, and it's hot as hell, and then I'd have to put him back in the truck and let it idle with the AC on. And if we have that thing in with the trailer pushed into his garage, then we're filling his garage up full of carbon monoxide, so we're not doing that. So unfortunately, if it was an up and back quickie, I'd take him with me, but you know, I don't get quickies anymore. So he's not gonna be able to come with me on this one. This ought to be interesting. Now, how in the hell do I get that lathe up on top of that box and the chip pan when I can't get the legs of the lift underneath it? So I think about it here for a while and decide that I need to reset up, and I can't do it this way. I didn't want to have to do it, but I ended up shortening the legs a little bit by pushing them back in. But this reduces the amount of support on the outward part of the tip, basically, where it can potentially flip forward more easily. So what I'm thinking about doing here is taking the headstock side, now that I'm a little closer to the box, getting that up on top of the chip pan, and then physically working, or kind of by brute force, swinging the tailstock into place and hopefully not dropping a thing on my feet. This isn't a very good angle, but I do have the tailstock of the lathe on that Mac Tools roll-around cart. And what I'm doing right now is getting a piece of wood to bridge between the stand, the toolbox stand where the lathe is going, and that cart. And I have some weight down on the headstock side where the lathe is sitting on the stand. Yeah, it's hard to believe I got away with this one, but it did work. So if nobody died, then everything's good. What I'm doing here is I have to get the wood out that I put underneath the headstock, because I knew I wasn't going to be on the chip pan directly. I didn't want to crush the edge, so I put a piece 2x4 there, and I'm getting that out, and also a piece I had underneath the tailstock. So that's what I'm doing here. And to do it, this is where it gets real sketchy. I extended the section on the top of the boom out, and that's actually out further than the wheels on the bottom, so this thing wants to tip forward. But I'm only putting a little bit of raised pressure on it to get the thing hoisted up just a little bit. And it was a little sketchy, but it worked. And I got the wood out, and I got it flat down on top of the chip pan. Well, I got her in. I guess this is testament to how much weight a old Mac Tool roll-around cart will take, that's for sure. Couple of small issues. Well, we got to line it up, and I think I have an idea how to do that with the lift. I'll show you that later. I extended the boom just to pick it up and take that piece of 2x4 out, because I didn't want to lay it on here when I was trying to rotate it in. And of course it's, you know, boing, picking up the back because the weight is too far from the support on the end. So, but I think I know a way I can do this to put it back into this other position, and then pick it up pretty straight, and then we'll line up all the mounting holes and stuff. There is no holes to bolt it down or anything yet, and I got to readjust this chip pan. And I got another problem. The electrician, that'd be me, put the plug in a poor position, but it was the only location that the electrician could use because of the way the conduit is on the outside. To bring it over here would be perfect, but there's a conduit that we'd have to cross, and then otherwise I got to come out. He has to come out of the box completely different, and it'd be a very convoluted run. So we're going to try to run with it. The other option is we're going to change over that 120 over there to 240, because I think that's a deep box too, if I'm not mistaken. We can just take this box out and move it over there if necessary, and then swap the wire over. I don't remember. I don't think there's a heavy enough gauge in that. I think that's probably 16. It has to be a minimum of 14 for this current draw, so according to the manual. So we may have to switch that around, but that shouldn't be too bad if I do that. And I got plenty of wire that he gave me that was already hooked up, which we'll verify those connections in here later. But I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up and put the bikes inside that I can get inside here for security's sake, and go ahead and take that trailer back to U-Haul, and then we'll run over to Lowe's or the Homeless Despot and see if we can find a plug and an outlet that actually may work in that limited space, like a 90 instead of instead of this, like the big one on the mill, that one there, 240. That's actually 4 terminal. You really only need 3 running 240. I only have 3 of them going, you know, the ground and the 2 legs, but there's no neutral on 240 circuit in the USA at least. So what I'm going to have to do is try to find a 3-pronger that I can wire up that is a right angle, and if I can do that, then I think we can fit this, because it only has to move back. It's got to move back about 6 inches, so maybe not. I guess we're just going to have to abandon that spot and go with that one over there. Yeah. Either way, I need an outlet and a plug. My buddy the Hawk came over to see me. I think he's trying to pull something out of the ground. Let's see what he's getting. What are you getting, buddy? I have no idea what this Hawk is doing. He's not happy with me right now. Yeah, he can't do too much damage. There must be a bug or something underneath there. He's trying to get it out, so I'll leave him alone. No, he won't do too much damage. Aren't those hawks beautiful? Those red-shouldered hawks. Comes around a lot. I think there's a family. Okay, bye-bye. All right, I'm back from my errands. I think I got the electrical thing at least temporarily solved. I'll show you that, but I need to get this thing lined up properly, so the only way I can do it to get some balance on it. Because I figured that would go inside and there would be an opening down the floor, the metal would be at the surface of the floor, but it's not. So I'm going to share the load a little bit. It works pretty well. I've already moved it a little bit. Trouble is, it's going to be hard to get it in because it's on both of these things. So let's see if we can do it. Oh, you know what? I got to move this. I just set this up here for size alignment. There we go. Actually, you know what? Maybe this will work. That might work. Trouble is, I cannot get it to. I'm gonna have to let it down and readjust because I'm too far to the right. I must keep sliding to the right. So. Boy, this is sketchy as hell. There it goes. It would be nice if I could see. Oh, I see now. Yep. Just about there. Excuse me. Yeah, that's pretty good. This is only temporary. All right, folks, we are at the point where the fruits of our labor for the last 3 days have gotten us here and paid off. It is brutally, and I mean brutally hot out. Probably, I think this is one of the hottest days yet because it's been raining off and on, so it's essentially about 99% humidity, except when it's raining, then it's 100. And it is just brutal today. And the last couple of days have been bad too. And I've been out in it trying to get things loaded up. As you saw, that I'm working by myself, so I'm making do. But I do not recommend doing what I did in offloading this lathe and stuff. You know, picking it up by yourself with even with a crane like this and so forth. Get some help, 2 or 3 people, and do it right. But unfortunately, I just don't have the help. So I'm kind of like Chad up there at, what is the name of his channel? This and That Garage up in Tennessee. He mentions that quite often. He's by himself. He can only get so much done. So same with me. But I've been working on this for 3 days. At the beginning of this video, you saw that I was getting the old lathe out and getting it out of here and getting it up in the trailer. And oh my God, just this whole thing has just been a nightmare this last couple of days. I solved the power situation you saw in the earlier part of this recent clips. I was really stupid. I'm thinking to myself, I really wanted to keep the box there, but I'm thinking to myself again, why? Because I was preparing to move all the conduit on the outside so I could move this box over, and I'm like, why don't I just put conduit on the inside and just move the box over? So that was dumb. So I haven't done it yet because I didn't think of this solution until after I left Lowe's to get the plug and the socket. If I had, I would have picked up what I needed, but I don't have the right stuff to do conduit, but I will do it, I promise. I do all my electrical to code. I left this long in case I do want to run an outlet somewhere else, like change that one to 240 and this one to 120, I don't know. So anyway, we're all powered up, ready to go, and it definitely works, all right? All right, so as far as detail on the lathe goes, and I'm still learning this, how this works is, I'll explain the controls here in a second. How we turn it on is we turn this to the right. Excuse me, there's an arrow here. And it's a reset switch. So if you wanted to turn it off, which I would do probably every time I was at the chuck, and I'll show you here why. Then you turn the power on and it sets a relay on, a locking relay. You can hear that. There you go, yeah. Inching is a pretty interesting function, which I'll show you here in a minute. Then you got power on, then you get your gear head change as far as speeds. This is your spindle speed for, well, this is these right up here, but this is direction as far as the lead screw goes. Okay, so you can run the lead screw, and I think I'm not sure, the feed as well. I don't remember. We'll figure that out. Like I said, I'm learning this thing still. But the interesting thing about this is, you notice when I turned this power start button on over here, the spindle didn't start turning. And that's because the spindle control is down here like a big lathe would be. It's very convenient. There's a shaft running into a box with some wires, and obviously it turns it on. To go into reverse, so that's real handy. I really like that a lot. Right now we're in feed, obviously, because you see the feed shaft spinning and not the threading lead screw. If we wanted the lead screw to turn, we would engage this guy here. What you can do is use this inching here to bump it, and then the gears will all move, and then that way you don't have to manually move it. You can also most likely use that for indicating too, you know, to bump the spindle around. So now we've got it engaged, you know, because everything's got to line up, you know. It's certainly not like a synchronized transmission, you know.
Do you have a trouble with your transmission? Shift it in forward, shift it in reverse.
Once you're in this mode, as far as the threading goes, you notice that the lead screw spins now. So you have 2 controls, and I know this is a noisy lathe compared to the other one, so when we do videoing on this lathe, you know, it's just the way it is. It's noisy. It's a gearbox lathe, so we'll have to plan our filming accordingly. But anyway, down here is your feed control lever, and you have 2 different feed settings. You have cross slide feed and you have carriage feed. You can see the indications there on that. So if we were to turn on the spindle and we wanted to go into into just a carriage feed.
What the hell?
Well, that ain't gonna work because we're not in we're not in carriage feed. Put it back over into feed this time. We're in lead screw. You're all saying, hey, you're in lead screw. So now we can do it. Now you're in carriage feed. Now the only thing I don't like about it is you have to switch the direction. That one up there I was pointing to before, the direction. See, it's arrow in or arrow out, you know, back and forth, left or right, to change, to do the proper direction for your cross slide. See, in this position right now, you're advancing the carriage properly. But if we were to go into carriage feed, which is right now, this thing would back out. So watch. So we're not going to be able to do that. So what we're going to have to do is change it up here into a different direction. I don't know why, I guess it's just the way it's geared. Now it'll feed properly. Minor inconvenience, I guess you might call it, but otherwise it's, you know, that's kind of weird, but yeah. So let's show you the threading side. We'll go back to where it was. There we go. And now we're in that lead screw again. And so if we were going to do that, we'd have to use the half nut over here. Right now it should be set up for imperial. So if we're in C, let's go to 8, and it should be much slower because that's a 28 thread per inch. There we go. Come on. There we go. That's a 28 thread per inch, and we're still in threading. This is gone. That's a little bit better. So that's how we would do feeding, as far as our threading rather, instead of feeding. But for the most part, you know, we're going to be using it in feed mode because, of course, you know, we're not going to do a tremendous amount of single point. But when we have to do single point on these Grizzly lathes, when they're in metric gearing, and this is something that I've heard other creators talk about, in particular John from Farmcraft 101, he's got a gunsmith lathe. This is kind of in that gunsmith lathe class. All right, he emailed me when I was asking about his lathe. He's got a variable speed gunsmith lathe, but it's almost identical to this. I think the same size or roughly the same. And he said one thing you're doing when you're doing metric threading rather, just like Curtis at Cutting Edge Engineering, you end up engaging your half nut and you leave it engaged. And so once you don't really have to, I don't think you have to use the threading dial on metric because it's you don't disengage to re-engage. The reason why you use the threading dial is so you can do that. So you don't disengage and re-engage when you're doing metric threading. You would actually leave it in like this. We would engage, we'd run our thread back off, and then we would go backwards. Then we come back into 0, and then we can advance our compound the appropriate amount, and then we can just rinse and repeat. All right, so for just the way they work. And like I said, Curtis does his metric, well, he only does metric really, threading the same way. It's got a really nice heavy-duty tailstock with a typical kind of a lock that you see on bigger machines that locks the movement of the tailstock. There's also a lock for the spindle. It moves nice and smooth. Then when you pull it back against that where it just stopped, it'll eject your tool. Right now I have the live center in, which I think needs a little oil actually. That's okay. And so I think one of the first machining projects we're going to do is to zero, I'll probably film this, we'll zero in the tailstock to the headstock. Now typically, or not typically, really you should be doing this between centers. All right, you should be doing it between centers. And what I mean by that is you take this off, put the faceplate on, and then put a center in, which will be a dead center, which turns, you know, live at that point. And all you're doing is measuring the diameter of the stock. Take a magic marker and put some marks on as to how much it needs to move, and then put a dial indicator on here and move their tailstock one way or the other, half that distance, and then get it running so when you take a skim cut, it's the same measurement all the way down. Maybe we'll film that. I don't have any stock to do it right now, otherwise I probably would have already done it. But once I get a piece, we'll do that. We'll see if we can film it, and that should be fun. Otherwise, I don't have any pressing projects for it right now, but I'm sure one will pop up. All right, so I figured I'd tell you the story about my experience with Grizzly, and then you be the judge. I'm gonna make it as brief as possible because it kind of goes over it stretches over a period of time. That's part of the problem. I originally reached out to them. Of course, they didn't have this lathe or another one I was considering in stock, which was fine because of the supply chain issues and being it's an import. And so anyway, we went back and forth, and the first thing I noticed was that their communications is horrible. Their email system is those ticket systems that a lot of businesses use. So you email them and it's like an automatic response. Somebody will get back to you soon. It takes a couple of days for somebody to get back to you. So once they did, I said, look, I want to buy this lathe when it's in stock, but they have a financing option. There's two of them actually. The one I was interested in was called Click Lease. And it's kind of like how I bought my shed. It's like a rent-to-own thing. A little bit of interest, which is built into the payment instead of like a amortized percentage, I guess. It's very similar to when you buy a cell phone on your contract, cell phone contract. So you pay for a certain amount of the cell phone, you know, buying the cell phone amount. At least that's how my cell phone company, Spectrum, does it. And other ones do it. And then at the end of that particular time, it's paid off, right? So I was looking to do that. I got the money for it, but I'm thinking, you know, maybe I don't really want, you know, the lathe is not going to be exactly right. And if I have a problem with them, maybe I can utilize the financing company to put a little leverage on them. So you know, it's kind of like when you buy something by a credit card, a regular credit card, like a Visa or something. You got a problem with the sale or the person or the company you bought something from. Credit card company will go to bat for you to a degree, depending on what the problem is. So I asked them about that after days of trying to get somebody on the phone, which I finally did. And they said, oh yeah, you can go through Click Lease, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to put some cash down as well. They are not equipped to handle that. I don't understand why, but they have a very difficult time understanding that. So to give them cash and then finance the rest of it through this Click Lease, for some reason, they can't connect the dots on that. They said it's possible they can do it, but I could tell that this was alien territory for them. So I said, all right, well, once we got the lathe in stock, the gentleman said, we'll give you an email back, and then you can call us and we'll at least put the deposit down, send the rest to Click Lease, and then get the order shipped. So that's exactly what happened. They called me or emailed me, one of the two, I don't know, and they said, okay, that lathe's in stock. So I got on the phone with a salesperson, and I gave that gentleman my credit card number. It's my regular business credit card through the credit union, okay? It's a debit/credit card. And took it, no problem. And I said, what's the next steps? He said, okay, this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna send you a receipt, you know, a documentation of the deposit, like a sales contract, and then Click Lease, within the next 30 minutes, this is all gonna come to you. Click Lease is gonna send you a contract. You sign it electronically, send it back, and then it's done. We'll get paid by them. Then you know, we'll get it shipped out. And I said, so when will I receive this? He said 30 minutes, like, or less. So I said, all right. So I didn't look at the email the rest of the night. The next morning I go in there expecting to see it. It's not there. I go, what the hell? So now I have to reach out to him again at Grizzly. And that took like a day and a half to get a hold of somebody. So I sent him a message through the ticket system first and said, hey, where's the information? No response, except their automated response. And then finally I get the same salesperson on the phone. And he said, oh, the credit card was declined. And I said, no, it wasn't. I went into my credit union online banking and it shows it as a pending payment. Like, in other words, it says pending. You probably see that on yours as well. Nope, it was declined. I go, no way. So we went back and forth on that, and I asked him why. He goes, I can't tell you that. They don't tell me why our accounting doesn't tell me why it's declined. All right, let me get back to you. So I called a credit union, talked to a live person. They said that is an active live charge and it was not declined. It's in pending status. It's, as soon as it gets done on their end, in other words, when they go, okay, we'll take the money, it'll be transferred. So I said, what the hell? So anyway, I finally get back to the guy. It took another day to do that, to get a hold of him. And I said, credit union says it wasn't declined. He goes, well, I don't know what happened then. He goes, well, you can wire us the money. And I said, well, the money's already been deducted from my account. So now I have to wire you another amount. And I said, I'm not going to do that. So I said, you need to go through your accounting and find out why this is declined and fix that and just let it go through. So a couple more days go by and we're emailing back and forth and calling. And so finally I get him on the phone and I said, I want to talk to your supervisor. 24 minutes later, supervisor gets on the phone. Oh, I'm sorry. I was in a meeting. Well, I don't really give a crap what you were in. So I go through this whole thing. She had been briefed on it, but not much. So I had to kind of regurgitate the whole situation to her. And she said, yeah, I'm looking at the account. We don't know why it's declined. And I said, it wasn't declined. And she said, well, it might be at our credit card processing company. And I go, well, you got a serious problem. So at that point, I'm saying to myself, Grizzly Industrial has some serious administrative and management problems. First of all, their communications suck. Secondly, getting them on the phone, if you talk to somebody like in the front door, if you will, like receptionist, I asked them some questions at the very beginning. They gave me incorrect information. And thirdly, they can't process a credit card charge. If they can't process a credit card charge, which is a simple thing, how can they process a complicated thing, like a problem after the sale? So I was thinking this while I was talking to the supervisor, and at that point I said, cancel the sale. And she paused and went, she didn't expect that. Well, I'll give you 5% off. And I said, no. I said, if you guys can't handle this, then I'm not going to do business with a company that can't handle a simple thing like a credit card charge. Okay, so after she cancels it, now my money's tied up for a number of days because it's in pending status. So I talked to the credit union again and they said, yeah, that'll fall off. If it doesn't go through on their end, but it takes like 5 days and it'll fall off and show back in your account, which it did. So I don't know, a few weeks later, month or two later, I reinitiated or reached out, to Grizzly to maybe do the deal again. And this time send them the money via wire. But it's $25 wire charge, and I said, you guys need to cover that. And they didn't sound very interested in doing that. So I did have this unit on hold once it got back in stock, which became a moot point, of course, after I bought this from a private sale, which yesterday I emailed them and said, never mind. And they wrote me back and said, oh, no problem. Please evaluate our customer service and stuff. They give you a link for a survey. And I'm like, nah, you're not going to do that. During this entire process, I wrote 2 letters to the CEO and president of Grizzly. That are 2 different individuals, but the letter was addressed to both people. I never received a response from either one. I asked them directly via an email during this whole process, through their ticket system. When I was thinking about, redoing the deal, I said, I want to hear directly from the president or CEO directly. They need to call me on the phone and say, this is our investigation, this is what happened, it won't happen again, we're very sorry. Never happened. They didn't bother to even reach out via email, a message, carrier pigeon, nothing. All they had was that supervisor write me back and said, the CEO and president are aware of the situation. They read your letter, and both letters, I guess, and I'm handling it. And I said, this is not right. Maybe I'm too demanding, I don't know. But I can tell you right now that this is what happened, and I probably will not do business personally directly with Grizzly. I don't have a problem with the product so much, although it is an import. There are some caveats to them. But as far as the company goes, they got some serious administrative problems. This is all augmented by information you can find on like Better Business Bureau. If you go on BBB sites and take a look at reviews of Grizzly, the negatives way outweigh any positives. In fact, I couldn't find any positives. They're not a direct member, I don't think, but people still report. And there's tons and tons of negative response from cases, some of which Grizzly had responded to on there. You know, you typically see that in like response from the owner, like on Google reviews. And so, you know, some of them were responded to, many others were not. Now, I know some people can be unreasonable, but a lot of those claims in there were very reasonable, like service after the sale stuff, you know, broken pieces, things like that. Machines that didn't work, you know, or shipping damages, you know, things like that. So, you know, again, I would say if you're going to think about buying from Grizzly direct, do your research and be very, be very cognizant on how you're going to do that deal. I would most definitely suggest, if you're going to do it, put the entire thing on a credit card, and if you got the money even, send your credit card company the next billing cycle the entire amount and pay it off, you know, before you gather any interest. Because then again, you can use your credit card company as leverage in case something goes awry on that particular deal. Because sending them cash, they can't, or money, you know, directly, electronically, I don't understand why they can't handle it. You know, everybody else can take my business credit card. They can't for some reason, and they either have, I'd hate to say it, but I believe they have incompetent people working there, and they probably have incompetent people in their contractors that they hire out to do things, such as credit card processing. The only reasonable explanation for the whole thing is plain and simple incompetence. So anyway, that's my story and the end of this video, luckily. Anyway, that's about it. Look forward to cooler days, turning some parts. So if you want to see me do that, you know what you need to do. You need to stick around, and you do that by subscribing, ringing the bell, liking the video and sharing. That helps me out immensely as far as analytics go. I think it's going to rain again. Gee, wonderful. And then, well, you get notified when I put more crap like this up. More stuff coming on the, what is it, the, what is that other bike? The 900. And then we'll be finishing up the Z1R here pretty soon, although I haven't started that footage. All right, my rambling's done. As always, thanks for watching. Don't just repair, restore. We'll catch you on the next video.